Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Ashley, and today I'm going to show you my favorite white bread recipe. It took me about 2 years to find a white bread recipe that I actually liked to replace store-bought white bread. This bread is so soft, with a hint of sweetness from the honey. It is absolutely delicious, and my family typically eats just about a full loaf the day that I make it, just snacking on the bread. So starting off, we did 2 cups of lukewarm water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, and now I'm going to add a pinch of honey. That pinch of honey is just going to help feed the yeast a little bit to get it going. This is going to have to sit for 10 minutes so that yeast can bubble up. I'm going to put this in my oven with my oven off, but the light is on, keeping it a little bit warm. My house is a little bit cold on this day, and I've been having some trouble with my dough rising, so that's why I decided to just pop it in the oven, and we're going to let it rise in there. And in the meantime, I want to show you my hydroponic garden while we're waiting for that to proof up. So I just planted some seeds about a week or so ago. This is iceberg lettuce that I have in here, and I just put them into the hydroponic garden. And I have some spinach we've been growing and picking from for quite some time. And I believe I have a video on this, or I showed you guys this before. And this is just how I've been starting my seeds for them. I just pop them in one of these trays and then just let them germinate in there, and then I'll pop them into their little trays in the hydroponic set. So these are some seeds that I plan to get done today. I have the canary bell and the Craig's jalapeno. Now these seeds will not be for the hydroponic garden, but I'm going to be putting them in soil for the regular garden. And our yeast is now bubbly, so we are going to go ahead and get going with the rest of our dough. Starting with 2 tablespoons of our oil of choice. I'm using avocado oil. You can use olive oil, vegetable oil, whatever oil you have or like for your breads. Followed by a 1/4 cup of your choice of honey. Now, for some reason, I always thought that I wouldn't like the flavor of honey in bread, so I always went with a sugar-based bread, but turns out the honey just gives it that soft chew that you like in a bread, and I will forever just use honey for my bread now. For my sandwich bread, I should say. I also enjoy it in a dinner roll as well, which I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but this bread would probably be lovely as a dinner roll, just as this recipe itself. So I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of red and real salt. Use whatever salt you like. I'm going to give that a good swirl and mix that all together. Now over on my side here, I have my flour. So I'm going to get that all measured out. The recipe calls for up to 5 cups of flour. On this day, I needed quite a bit more, but we're going to start with our 5 cups. And I did end up making this dough too sticky, so just go by how it's feeling, how it's looking. I was not feeling too well on this day. I believe that we have the flu or something. We have high fevers, all that good stuff. And I'm just trying to get this done as fast as possible and try to get out of this kitchen as fast as possible. Speaking of that, please don't mind the dishes, and that bowl on the countertop over there is my chicken scraps. Now we're going to put on our mixer and knead our dough for 5 minutes. You can do this by hand if you don't have a mixer. Now I did originally reserve some of that flour from the 5 cups, so I'm adding the rest of that 5th cup right now. I'm going to let that come together and then see where we're at after that, if we need some more flour or not. It's still way too sticky, so I'm going to add another like about 1/2 cup of flour. It's looking much better, but I definitely should have added more flour, probably about another 1/2 cup, making it 6 cups in total. And now I'm going to try to add oil to my bowl here. And here's when I notice that my dough is way too sticky, but as I said, I am not feeling well, so I just don't care. I figured I'll just work with the sticky dough, and I do regret this later, so next time I'm going to add that extra flour. I do prefer to work with a sticky dough because I find it makes a much softer bread, which this bread did come out very soft. I was very pleased with it in the end. It's just way harder to manage when it's this sticky. So I do like it to be a little less sticky so I can get it out of the bowl and off of my fingers a little bit easier. Right about now I realize my hands are way too doughy to be putting that olive or avocado oil into the bowl. Once again, you can use whatever oil you want. I prefer an olive or avocado oil for this. So I called one of my helpers in and she put the olive oil in for me. And here comes my helper. She was more than willing to help me with this oil, and she actually helped me with a few things on this day, and I was very happy to have her in the kitchen with me. Now that we have our 2 tablespoons of oil in our bowl, we're going to get this dough back in there, and once again, it's way too sticky. And this is just such a mess. So I'm going to get this in the bowl, and then we want to coat it in our oil, so I'm just going to, when I'm done peeling it off my hands, roll it around in the bowl to coat it in the oil, and get myself cleaned up. Now I covered this back up and I'm going to put this in the oven. Once again, my oven is not on, just the light is on. I will preheat it after. I'm going to let it rise. And this dough had to rise for an hour and 30 minutes. And in the meantime, my kiddos wanted a snack, so I figured why not make some popcorn and drizzle it with chocolate, because that sounded like fun. So I'm going to drizzle this popcorn with some chocolate that I melted with coconut oil and just to thin it out a little bit. And then I'm showing my daughter how to do it, and she wanted to have a part of this too, so I let her have some fun. My kids are always willing to help with anything I'm cooking in the kitchen, and I love that. I love having them in the kitchen helping me because it's teaching them skills that they will need when they're older. Usually they help me in just day-to-day life with cooking, not really when I'm filming, but I try not to have them on the camera, but they just pop in as they like. My kids also love to help in the garden, and they were not big veggie eaters until we started growing garden for the first year, and now they love like absolutely any vegetable raw. They don't really like cooked veggies, they just like raw veggies, which is fine. There's more nutrition in the raw veggies anyway, so I'm perfectly fine with that. That spinach that we've been growing in the hydroponic garden has been flying. They just pick it and eat it. They call it dino leaves. Now, as a little treat, I told this one that she can eat the leftover chocolate. Now I'm going to give this a try here. It looks so pretty. And it tastes absolutely delicious. Just as I imagined, and the kids absolutely loved it. And I mean, how simple is that? Now we still have some time for that dough to rise, so I'm going to get started on some seeds. And my helper in the kitchen was holding my camera for me. We are going to get some of this Coast of Maine seed starter mix into our pots, and usually I like to wet my soil first. This time I was not feeling good, so I just wanted to get it done fast. I need these peppers sown ASAP. It is February 7th that I am sowing these pepper seeds, and usually I do my peppers in January, so I'm a little late to the game this year, but better late than never. So we're starting with the canary bell pepper, and I'm going to have my little helper do 5 little slots in this tray of the sweet bell pepper, sowing 2 seeds per cell. After those are sown, she's going to put some Craig's Grande jalapenos in the last 4 cells, 2 seeds per cell. I try to do 2 seeds per cell to make sure we get good germination, and then as they grow up, I'm not going to keep them both in the same cell. You can either transplant one of the seedlings by gently tweezing them out, or what I'm likely going to do is just cut one of the seedlings out, whichever one I like the best, I will keep, and the one that I think is more weak, I will just cut off. Now 2 of my little helpers are going to gently cover these up with a 1/4 inch of soil. Now that that is done, we can get back to our dough that is happily proofed. Now our next step is to come in here with some of our oil of choice And we are going to take a paper towel and rub this around, or you could use your hand, whatever. I don't like the feeling of the oil on my hand too much, so I'm just going to use a paper towel. And I'm going to spread this all around in both pans, even covering the lid of the Pullman pan. I love this Pullman pan. It makes it so it's a nice rectangle loaf. I do need to work on making sure I put the bigger half of the loaf into the Pullman pan though, because I always have a short loaf and I'd like it to hit the top there, but I'll work on that. And this recipe does make 2 loaves of bread, if I did not mention that before. Now, if you're interested in this recipe, it is a very delicious recipe. Just make sure you add a little more flour than I did. I will type out the recipe for you in the description. I do not have a link for this recipe. I lost the link quite some time ago. I've been using this recipe for about a year now. So I do have it written out, so I will type it in the description for you. I really hope you give it a try. So what I'm doing here is ripping my dough in half, and then I'm going to put it on a floured countertop, and I like to roll it kind of like you're rolling a cinnamon bun, and then our sides are going to close in there. If it's a little more stiffer of a dough, then you can pinch in that seam there, and then I just roll in the edges. Then we're going to lift this up and get this into one of our pans. Now we're going to cover up our loaves. For the Pullman pan, I'm going to take my lid and just place that on. And then for the other one, I'm just going to drape over my rag again, my kitchen towel, and then I'm going to put these in the oven so they can proof in there. Once again, without the heat on. We do not want to start a fire. So remember to take those out before you preheat your oven. I'm going to keep these in here for about 30 minutes of the rise time, sorry. And then I will take them out and preheat for the last 15 minutes. They need to rise for 45 minutes. So now my oven is preheated. You're going to want to set your oven to preheat on 350 degrees, and they are going to bake for 33 minutes. Now that that is done, it's time to get dinner going. So tonight, I'm just making a literal super simple dinner just to get this going as fast as possible. I got some rice cooking in my rice steamer, and I have some canned ground beef, and I have this lettuce wrap sauce that I need to use up, so I'm just going to put that on the ground beef, and that is dinner. And our bread is done. This smells absolutely delicious. I love the smell of fresh bread. I give it a little knock here because if it sounds hollow, that means it is done. And that is a nifty little trick I've learned over the years. I used to always have doughy bread, and now I no longer have that. Thank you, God. I'm sorry for whoever I have served bread to. That was a little doughy on the inside. I'm finally over those days, and we have some good bread. Now this Pullman pan loaf always looks a little bit lighter, but is perfectly cooked inside. I'm going to spread some butter over the top. This helps keep the loaf nice and soft. If you don't put the butter, it might not get as soft, because when it comes out of the oven, it feels hard. So you put this butter on, melt it on, and then you drape a towel over top of it, a little tea towel or whatever you have for the kitchen, and this will soften the bread after you let it steam in there for about 10 minutes. Now this bread is the perfect golden color. Beautiful. I'm going to bring this loaf over here, and I'm going to take my butter knife and gently press it around the edges to release the bread from the pan. Sometimes I need to do this a few times and like scrape up the bottom a little bit more to fully get it to release, as I did this time. Now I'm going to try to gently flip and jiggle it out. It doesn't release the first try, so I'm going to have another go at it. This time digging up underneath the bread a little bit, as you see here, and this will help release that bread. And there we have it. Now my Pullman pan, as you'll see here, this one just gently slides out so easy. No need to run a knife around it at all. That's why I love that pan, and it is so soft. You can see like just the wrinkles in it when you lift it, and as I squeeze, it just has a nice give to it. Super soft. I also want to mention, if you're having problems with your bread getting stale fast on the countertop, I like to take mine and put it in a bread bag, or just like a plastic bag, whatever you want to put it in. Even some plastic wrap works good. And put it in the fridge, and it'll store in there for like at least 3 days. And it'll keep some of the softness in that bread. And you can just give it a little toast if you want it to be warm again, or just leave it out on the countertop. We're going to slice it here, and I'll just show you what it looks like inside. My family ate one of these loaves on the first day that I made it, and they just ate it with dinner and some before dinner. It's just so good when you have fresh bread out of the oven. It's delicious. It'd be a waste to not eat some on the first day. And then the second day we made sandwiches out of it, and it was delicious, and now I need more bread. So we will be making more tomorrow, off camera. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope to see you back soon. Have a blessed day.